Hey, this is Chad with Drawn and Cornered. It is November 12th, 2021, and here's the news for the day. We are closing down the climate summit in Glasgow, and the rubber is finally meeting the road. Initially, when everybody gets there, it's a lot of glad handing, it's a lot of picture taking, everybody getting together and hugs and jocularity abounds. Now we're starting to get down to real brass tacks of this, and nobody is ending up happy. There's talks about including the words fossil fuels in the language. There's talks about exactly how much money is going to developing nations from, or excuse me, underdeveloped nations or developing nations from the already developed nations, the rich countries. There's talk about historical CO2 emissions and the fact that the richest 40 countries out there have contributed essentially all of the historical CO2 emissions, and the tiny countries, the developing countries, have not. And that is the major issue. So no matter how clean they are now, all this sort of stuff. But this is what's really interesting about this is that once the real information starts coming down and once the real activity and demands are coming down, everybody sort of goes hands off. Nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to be a part of it. It's becoming extraordinarily problematic once people actually need to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak. Everybody talks a big game until it actually happens. And this is also very, very telling. So these countries that are developing and have contributed almost nothing to climate change are very upset at the countries have done major impacts, including the United States, China, Russia, Germany, all of the big countries, all of the populous and also wealthy countries have contributed to climate change. But they're now able to turn that and become significantly more efficient, while the developing countries are being put upon and have the biggest impacts from climate change because they are poor countries. This is what's telling about it. So there's two ways to look at this. Either those developed countries can just start paying the underdeveloped countries to bring them up to speed, to get their climate stuff in order and not use the same fuels that brought us along that path. But the only reason that's possible is because we let innovation, the economy, and all of these industrialized countries that have already pushed through that get that wealth. Wealth is the way we get through climate change, by pushing the economies, by pushing further, pushing deeper, not by government sanctions, not by cutting the legs out from underneath you, but by growing from there. It is the very fact that we emitted so much in the air and that we were such big CO2 producers that we now have the opportunity to do better. It is Maslow's hierarchy of needs when it comes to a global position. That first off, you need to feed your people. Then you need to build out of an ag type society so that people can kind of focus on what they're good at, create better products, create better lives, and move forward in that capacity. And once you achieve all those levels where there's a pretty baseline good region in your country, that you can start worrying about these more esoteric and kind of out there and long-term plans like climate change would be. Developing countries can't do that right now because they need to just survive. They need to just get through day to day. They need to feed their populace. They need to learn how to expand just a little bit, educate people, and so on. And we are cutting the legs out from underneath them by saying, don't use the ability you have currently in your country to go any further, whether that's dirty coal or whatever. That's the problem. Instead, we need to be encouraging that, like, hey, let's get through this time as quickly as possible. Let's push you as fast as possible to affluence and to wealth and to capability, and to push you to a point where you can start then coming out on the other side. And like the states who aren't a part of the Paris Climate Accords, or weren't for the past couple of years, and actually reduced emissions because of that, because we have the tech available to look for natural gas and to do fracking and to bother with solar and wind and all of these other things. That's because we are wealthy that we can do that. Countries that haven't taken that path are not going to be capable of that. And the just pure structure of the climate change accord and what everything is trying to do at the COP26 shows that the best way to get there is by creating wealth and creating a dynamic and capable country. That's what we need to be pushing, and they're pushing the exact opposite, and that's why it will eternally be a failure. It will never go anywhere, because you can't tell countries that are looking to follow our same path towards affluence, you can't follow me through this door. It's never going to work. Second story that's out there right now, and I guess it's kind of two stories. We have two major cases that are out there right now. The Rittenhouse case, which seems like it's going to be closing down probably Monday or Tuesday. It seems like closing arguments are going to be made Monday. We might have a verdict as early as Tuesday. The media is not doing us any favors. The media is stoking this as though there is still a possibility that he gets a conviction here. I don't see any way that happens. So anybody out there who's expecting that to happen and is going to be upset with the result, media is lying to you. Media is putting you in a position to be disappointed, and you shouldn't be disappointed, because everything in this case leads towards a non-conviction, leads towards a not guilty, leads towards a self-defense claim. Nothing about this has gone any other way. There is no decent argument. There is no reasonable argument to be made for why this is not a self-defense claim or why this would be murder. It's not out there, doesn't exist. Any media company that's telling you that it does is lying to you. It's just bald-faced lying to you. And that comes from Jeffrey Toobin at CNN. That comes from every analyst that's on MSNBC calling this a racist killing, though it's a white guy killing white guys. None of it is true. None of it is accurate. They are stoking you specifically to try and enrage you when this almost inevitable verdict comes down, and you shouldn't buy it. Shouldn't happen. And if you talk to anybody like that, you should tell them that they're being lied to, that there's nothing about this case that leads anywhere other than no conviction. The other case that's out there, which should lead to a conviction, is Ahmaud Arbery's case. Now, this is the guy who was supposedly just kind of nosing about a construction site, an uninhabited house that was being rebuilt. Because of that, a couple of guys decided they were going to stop him, attempt a citizen's arrest. If you even believe their story, they essentially chased him down, parked a car in front of him, leveled shotguns at him, and expected him to stop and just come with them. Ahmaud Arbery didn't. He tried to run around the truck, ended up coming face to face with one of the assailants. Assailant shot him square in the chest, killed him right there. There were at least 2 guns on the scene, possibly even 3 or 4. There was a trail vehicle that was recording the whole thing that thought this was a good idea. All of these guys should be put in prison. There's no excuse for this not to go full-on murder, but we'll see where it's at, because it's maybe not quite that easy. And with one black juror, the case could be made that this ends up going in a racist way. I am hoping this case goes the way that it should, so that everybody can kind of go, oh, all of those worries we had were unfounded. All the thoughts that we had that this would go the racism way, or that this wouldn't end up becoming a case of justice, were unfounded, were inaccurate. As long as that happens, everybody should be satisfied. It still sucks that he was killed. It's completely absurd. It's probably one of the hardest videos I had to watch. Far more difficult than George Floyd, in my eyes, was the Ahmaud Arbery case. But that case hopefully will go the direction that it should. Watching the video, there's nothing but murder to be found here. So we'll see how that case turns out. That one is also closing down, so we should have a verdict in that one fairly shortly as well. But keep your eye on 2 of those, because that is, strangely, the media is not paying nearly as much attention to Ahmaud Arbery, which seems kind of like an open, shut, obvious case of racism, than they are Kyle Rittenhouse, where they're stoking racism where no racism is even alleged or supposed or included at all, as it's a white guy killing other white guys. So we'll see how that goes. But understand, again, media is lying to you. If you want the good stories, if you want the analysis that I can give you here, the news that I can give you here, where I will tell you very honestly what is accurate and what is my opinion, what is my thought on it, you will not get that in many other places, and at least not as honestly as I'm delivering it here. So subscribe if you want that sort of thing here at Drawn and Quartered. We release a video every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Hit that bell so you get notifications as we deliver those videos. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, want to tell me that I'm totally out of my mind, leave that comment down below and I will get an answer out to you. Thank you again for watching. This is Chad with Drawn and Quartered. I will see you again on Monday.